I'd like to do a quick video, well, hopefully it's as quick as possible, video to show the most common problems that these battery-operated toys have. I'm going to be looking at toys from the 60s usually. Some will have this remote control, and some will be more like this guy here who has the batteries in his base. We'll take a look at both, but there are two really common problems that people should start with before they even think about tearing inside of a toy. Like up here, I've got the Yeti and these two Nomura gorillas. They sometimes need to be opened up. They need to have the fur removed and opened up, and that's a process. But the first thing we should do is this. So let's say it's a toy that has the batteries built in, like this guy. Got an on switch back here. The batteries go in the base, like here. And so, this is going to be common sense to a lot of people, but here is a contact for a battery, here is a contact, here, and these tend to get oxidized, and corrosion on them. They need to, you can take just about anything, very fine sandpaper or an emery board, and scratch the surface of those so that they are shiny again. That's the most basic thing that we can do to try to get these things going, and that is a very common reason why they won't work. So that's what we want to do first. We also want to make sure that these are not pressed in so far that they no longer make a good contact with the battery. Sometimes you have to get underneath here with a screwdriver, or you can with your finger, and pull them out, bend them slightly so that you've got a good solid contact there. So there's our start. Now, the flip side of that is with these other toys that are the remote toys, like the white one I just showed. The batteries go inside here. Make sure they're facing the right direction, which is usually positive is up toward the end that has the buttons on it, but you can try either way. Switching the batteries around will only make the motor run in reverse, which is what these buttons do anyway. One runs the motor forward, one runs it in reverse. So yeah, we want to make sure, again, the same thing here, that this contact is clean, that this contact is clean, that this is not pushed way back here or it isn't making good contact. You pull it forward, and once you have that in order, you get your batteries in there, make sure they're right, because it can be really frustrating if you're working on something and you haven't checked this carefully. If you can, you want to check the current at the other end to make sure that you have current, but that's going to require something else. That's a different process. But make sure this is cleaned up and that's making good contact, and that you've done all that you can within reason. So if that doesn't take care of your problem, if your toy still is not running, then this is what the thing that's probably most important. This is an electric motor. I can't remember what this came out of, but there's 3 or 4 really common varieties of motors that you'll find in these toys. There's a toy, the Marx Frankenstein toys, who collectors will be familiar with. It has 2 of these little motors in it. So ideally, we don't want to have to go inside the toy to get these. Again, you have to remove fur many times. You've got to remove tin panels that are held on by the little tin tabs that tend to break off. I'll show you an example of that. Some of these little tabs like this, and I think this one's missing a couple too. And they do. They're not made to last forever. These toys were not meant to be around for 70 years and or 50 years, whatever it might be. And so they can definitely be a problem if you have to go inside. Losing the tab is one of the big ones. So we want to avoid that. Let me get back on track here. I'm not going to give a lesson on how electric motors work, but they're fairly simple. Inside here is a shaft that has magnets on it, and there are magnets around this casing, and those magnets create a magnetic, I don't want to say, I guess I should say field, but they, cause things to push and pull, and they make this thing turn. That's all we really need to know. And what happens is inside here, I'm not going to take this off, but inside here, if you pop this plastic cap off, you'll see there's two brushes, which if any of your car guys, you know, that's the most common thing that I saw that had brushes was a starter on a car when I was a kid. But all we really need to know is that these two metal brushes make contact with this center post, which is the same as this one. They make contact with it underneath this plastic cap. Two little metal, I don't know, little metal prongs. And they push against this. And they allow it to turn, but they press against this shaft. But they need to make good solid contact for this operation to take place. And what happens is some of these toys, they get set aside for 6 months or a year or years, and a little bit of oxidation and corrosion and just gunk, oil and dirt, etc., can build up on those different parts, on the little metal brushes here and on that shaft. And then when you try to run it, you press your button on your remote and the power is flowing, but it's stopping right here. It's not making good contact, and it will not allow the motor to run. So ideally, we can get it to go. Sometimes you can just press the button. If you've got good contact, you can press the button over and over and just kind of try to get it to, if you've ever gotten a car stuck in the snow, it's like kind of like rocking the car out of the snow. Get it to move just a little bit and get it to turn, and then it breaks loose. And once it starts spinning, once the motor's running, then it will begin to clean that shaft and those brushes by itself, just from the motion. So that's what we have to do, is to get it to run. Once it runs, I usually, if it's been a while, I'll let it run for a couple of minutes. Let it run for as long as you want, but I'd let the motor run, let the toy run for a while, let it clean that gunk off. If you can visualize that, there's the surfaces of those brushes and that shaft need to just have friction and contact for a period of time and clean themselves off. And then it will probably run for a very long time. I go back and run these motors regularly in these toys, if I could remember, to try to keep that from happening again, because there are times when, excuse me, when that buildup will be so bad that you will have to go inside the toy. And once you're in there, I would say, you don't have to take the motor apart generally. I used to do that, and then I realized maybe I don't have to take the motor apart. But what you do need to do is, once you're inside, is push the button on your remote to make it run, and then spin, this. You can spin this, or you can spin a gear that's in contact with this. Spin any gear that's going to create a movement in this motor. And if you spin it, almost every time for me, at least 95% of the time, if I spin this, sometimes it takes, 100 spins, and it'll start to clean that stuff off of that shaft, and then you'll have it running again. It'll take off. You just let it run, let it clean itself up a little bit, and you can avoid having to go in. This is an easy operation to clean, but you're going to have to take this motor out most times. You're going to have to remove it from the toy. You're going to have to desolder the wire connections. Much better if you can avoid that. So yeah, once it's running, then you can work with it there. It'll clean itself off. So I would say, on your toys that you have, run the motors from time to time. Make sure that you run them every now and then so that they will keep themselves cleaned up, because you don't want to risk a situation where you have to go inside the animal. You have to go inside the animal. Go inside the toy. Whoa. Sorry. Go inside that toy, and that's a job. All right. What in the world I got there on my video. So that's it. If you have questions, shoot those over, but this is the first one of these videos. This is the first video I've actually done about repairing old toys. And yeah, that's where I'll start.